The epidemic of synthetic marijuana might be reaching people close to you. The scary thing is the misconception surrounding drugs like these. Lubbock passed an ordinance last February that banned the drug from the city. I sat down with the person responsible for making it all possible, Gina Johnson, hearing how the drug changed her life and how she changed the city of Lubbock forever.
All started back when my son was trying to get clean off of regular marijuana. The legal or synthetic marijuana was what they called legal here in town. It was legal. He already had some legal issues going on because of the marijuana, and he was trying to avoid doing that some more. So that's where it started. He was trying to wean himself off the marijuana and started smoking legal to kind of help. And at the beginning I think, okay, it's legal, so it's got to be okay. And then it wasn't so okay. We noticed some behavior that was really erratic, and then he started having some side effects from it that were very frightening. And he'd have hallucinations, wake up in the middle of the night screaming that he had spiders crawling all over him and just clawing at his skin. Somebody needed to do something. Somebody needed to do something. Somebody needed to do something. And then one day in class we were talking about it, and it kind of hit me that I was somebody. So that's why I started trying to do something. Because of the name synthetic marijuana, people think it's very innocuous. They think it's very similar to marijuana, that it just causes you to be laid back and mellow, and it's not the case. The chemicals that are added to these plant materials can do everything from raising your blood pressure so high that you have strokes. It causes kidney failure, brain damage, severe hallucinations, psychosis. It convinces people to commit suicide.
Once he started smoking the synthetics, would you say that it was evident to you the differences between the real stuff
extremely
and
evident.
the fake stuff?
He had cut down quite a bit on the marijuana, and he was just smoking the legal every once in a while, once or twice a week when he first started. And he had, all of a sudden, when he stopped smoking the marijuana, he had goals again. He had dreams again. He'd gotten his GED within just a matter of a couple of weeks. Decided he was getting his GED, was prepared and took it, and scored high enough that they were sending him letters wanting him to go to college, because he had scored so high on the GED that it was just unusual for people to score that high. Then within just a few days after that, of course, he started sleeping more, which is one of the first things that you'll notice with someone that is using. Extreme vomiting. He would do that, and then of course there were the hallucinations and the night terrors, and one minute he would be hot and sweating, and the next minute he was so cold he would be shivering. And that's when I started doing research. That was because this substance is so effective and so potent, but it lasts such a short time that after they've used it 2 or 3 times and have become chemically dependent on it, within 15 minutes of their last usage, they've already started going through withdrawals.
Right.
And the withdrawals are horrendous. They are, I've used that word a lot, but there's not any better description for it. It's just horrendous.
How did you go about getting help for him? And once you started recognizing that this isn't the same stuff that we've been dealing with before?
Right. When I first started recognizing it, I took a route that I probably should not have taken because it was not beneficial to an addict or to the family of an addict. I had the simplified idea that if I could get it out of Lubbock, if I could get it off the streets, he'd be okay. So that's what I started doing. I tried to get it banned, and it's a lot more complicated than I ever originally thought it would be.
Absolutely.
I mean, I thought it would be just a simple matter of going in front of the city council and them saying, yeah, that's really bad stuff, we'll take it off the streets. Well, originally I had to take it to the city council. Most of them had never even heard of it. They had no idea of what it was. They had no idea that it was being sold so openly in the city of Lubbock. And they had to start researching it and delving into the legal aspects of it. The problem with an all-encompassing ban like that, if the government, the city, decided to take it to an extreme, they would already have grounds to do it, and they could start banning things like coffee or soft drinks, because those also have the caffeine in them. Do mimic some sides of the illegal narcotics. So, they were not willing to do that. And on one hand, I'm kind of glad that they didn't, because I really like my Dr. Pepper. But at the same time, I'm thinking I'd give it up.
Right.
I would give it up in a heartbeat to protect these people. It was only sold in the smoke shops, and you had to be 18 years old to get in there, which was highly inaccurate, because 16-year-olds
still find a way to get it.
16-year-olds still buy cigarettes. Underage kids still find a way to buy alcohol. They're still going to find a way to get it. I've heard of a young kid who was having a hallucination that he had worms in his head, and the only way he could think of to get it out was to put a knife through his temple. There was another young man that decided in his hallucination that he had to sacrifice his dogs to God. And so he took a paring knife and was attacking his dogs in their backyard. The 911 call was broadcast, and you could hear his wife just in a sheer panic. What's going to happen after the dogs are gone? Or is he going to come after me and the kids? An older gentleman had to protect himself against his 40-something-year-old stepson, and killed him. And that was here locally and not too long ago. And I feel like that should have never happened.
And how long did it take?
It only took about 5 months from the time I started to the time we got the final vote done.
Still 5 months is a lot longer than you anticipated, I'm sure.
And every time I'd go in front of the city council, I would give them a number.
Right.
88 people have been treated in the emergency rooms for this substance since we talked 2 weeks ago. Or 137 people have been treated in the emergency rooms in Lubbock since I first brought this up. Or 218 people have been treated. And those are just the ones that were treated. Those aren't the ones that, like my son, laid on the couch wrapped up in a blanket and suffered through it.
Right. We talked to actually a couple different physicians in the emergency room in Covenant and UMC about this, the prevalency of this drug and how much it really is hitting hospitals and how many people are being treated. The numbers are just ridiculous still. That they have gone down since the ordinance was passed, which is good. But people are still finding a way to get their hands on it. What would you say if you could give advice to the kids that are thinking about doing this as a substitute?
Don't risk it. Absolutely don't risk it. I am not an advocate for marijuana use, but if you are making a choice between marijuana and synthetics, don't look at synthetics. Use independent labs. We're still going to be bogged down. It's always going to be a low priority, because it's just the way the world works. The more dramatic the crime, the higher priority it has.
Let's talk about just a little bit briefly about what happened afterwards. What happened after this ordinance was passed? How gratifying was it once this ordinance was passed in the city of Lubbock?
It was an amazing feeling. It really was. I knew it was going to happen, and I was prepared for it, and we were excited. And when it finally happened, I was just so overwhelmed with the feelings that I was having, thinking, okay, we've made a step forward. We're getting somewhere. Unfortunately, the realism set in very quickly thereafter, because by the time they had banned the chemicals, China was already shipping in new chemicals. A friend of mine had a family member die because of it, and I got angry. I got very, very angry, because it didn't have to happen. He was a grown man, yes, it was his decision, yes, but at the same time, if it weren't available, maybe it wouldn't have happened. This affects all races, it affects all ages, it affects male, female, in some way or another. It affects people that don't realize that it's affecting them. It affects them, because maybe their immediate family's not using, but maybe they've got a teenage daughter whose boyfriend is, and he's going to have a bad reaction, and if she's with him, there's no telling what'll happen, and they're going to have to deal with that. You're driving down the street minding your own business, and all of a sudden you get slammed into from somebody that's been using it. Everybody in this town is affected by it, whether they realize it or not, whether
Absolutely.
they even know this stuff exists or not.
What do you think that you could do, or I mean really just the city of Lubbock, what could they do to increase awareness?
Well, there's been a number of things that I have tried to implement. I wanted LP&L to post a flyer out in their monthly statements to educate the public on what it is. LISD, the school board, to incorporate this into their Red Ribbon Week when they start teaching the kids more and more about the illegal narcotics. I want them to include synthetics. The state of Texas itself blew me away the other day. I was talking to a rehab center, and they do not consider synthetics a legitimate addiction. They don't know how to treat it. We're too far behind. We've got to get the research done on how to treat it, the physical causes, the emotional causes, the devastations, the addictions. We're too far behind. We've got to step up. We've got to step up legally. We've got to step up medically. It's taking over. And if they don't, by they, I mean we, don't do something quickly,
Right.
it's going to snowball.
What's your take on those local smoke shops, and how do they come into play with this whole issue?
Well, with the local smoke shops, they're doing one of two things. They're either buying the product completely packaged and ready to sell, and there's a lot of them are selling it out the back door. Very few of them are actually putting it out on the shelves just to be picked up. They're either doing it that way, or they are buying the materials and making it themselves. My niece worked at one of the smoke shops, and she said it was coming in there in 55-gallon trash cans. They would mix it up, put it in little bags, seal it up, put a sticker on it that said not for human consumption, and put it on the shelves. It was, basically stop calling us names. And I'm thinking, keep selling it, and I'm going to be protesting in front of your house. Let your neighbors know what you're doing. If you know the name of the product itself, if you go in there and ask for a Baraboo shot, they know what you're talking about, and they'll sell it to you.
Yeah.
So that's how he was getting it, and by that point he was a full-blown addict, and he was doing everything that a typical addict does to supply their need, and he was stealing. He stole from us thousands and thousands of dollars of just items that he was taking and hawking or selling at the gold stores, or and then actually cash. At one point he had stolen my debit card. Though he's not living here and I don't see him on a daily basis, he's either texting me or calling me. At one point I had turned off his phone so that I was refusing to support him in any form or fashion. He wasn't going to get anything from me. And then we had that first real bad freeze and snowstorm, and we just could not bear the thought of him sleeping in the park anymore. So we put him in a motel, and he's gone the routes of all the cheap motels in town.
And do you think about him every day?
Oh, constantly. I mean, when you're a mom, the first thing that happens when you wake up is you start thinking about your kids.
Do you think at any point, once he gets clean, will he be welcome back in your house? And what do you think the future holds for the two of you if he does get clean, if he does go down that route?
If he becomes clean and stays clean, he will be welcome to come home. I don't think it's actually a realistic option for him, because this is a place that he was very comfortable using. Even though it was very distressing to us and that caused major fights and all sorts of trauma and drama, I don't think it realistically, I mean, he'll be welcome to visit, but I don't think he'll ever live here again. When you're an addict, the only thing that matters is your next fix. And as a parent, knowing that his next fix is more important than I am to him, more important than my feelings are, that can be very devastating.
It's long-term, it's short-term, and really it can affect your entire life.
And one time is all it takes. If it doesn't get you the first time, it will the second.
Absolutely. Sean Pfeiffer, Fox News.
You're watching Fox 34 News Now.